Hello everyone and welcome back to the JP on Comms YouTube channel for another all you need to know player video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Stone's latest incoming for the 25-26 season, and there's going to be TJ Bramble. TJ is coming in from Welling United, of course another National League South side whose fortunes did not favour them last campaign, ending up in the relegation zone. Of course, looking at TJ, he is someone who we're hoping will be a diamond in the rough of that last campaign for Welling. So let's take a little look at the player himself. Now, he is 24 years of age currently, approximately 6'2" tall, and he is also a Antigua and Barbuda international. So coming in with quite a bit of international experience under his belt. First debuting for them in 2018. He's got 20 caps, despite some reports saying 10. I've done a little bit of digging, found out that he does actually have 20 appearances for his international side, at least to my knowledge. My sources may be wrong, but I've dug quite deep trying to find out what I can, and he's got 20 international caps to his name. So that's a good thing in my opinion, because I think someone who plays for an international side is always going to want to develop and try and improve their club career in order to feature regularly for their international side as well. And Antigua and Barbuda, don't get me wrong, they're not the best side in the club or in the FIFA World Rankings. I believe they're around 100th place, and the highest they've ever got was about 70. So they aren't the best squad in the FIFA World Rankings, but they're a team that players like TJ could improve and could become their star man. You know, it doesn't necessarily take a lot to try and pick up a country and be that front runner, you know, that leader for the country, and try and boost them up a little bit as well. So for me, that's something he may look to try and develop towards and could benefit Maidstone going forward. He does say in his opening interview, which is just here on the screen behind me, that he does feature more in a central midfield role. From what I can find in past experiences, that does seem pretty accurate, sometimes playing a little bit more defensive, sometimes playing a little bit more offensively, but has featured very heavily in different positions all over the pitch in the Maidstone United game against Welling. Last season away for Maidstone, he did feature in the defence at times in that game, playing often on the right hand side of the defence. He's also featured on the left wing very frequently for Welling and sides pass, which we'll get onto in a second. But he is someone who again can be a high utility man. George Elokobi and his high utility players, you know, he likes that versatility, and it's exactly what we're going to be getting here with TJ. So taking a little look at his club history, we'll go on to more detail on him as an actual player in a little bit. But looking at his past club history, like I say, he's been at Welling now for 2 years, joined them in 2023 from Chelmsford. He was only at Chelmsford for a very short period, and that was after he'd left Dover in 2022. He played 2 years in the National League for Dover, featuring 34 times across those 2 campaigns. So he's got quite a bit of National League experience under his belt as well at a very young age. So, you know, late teens, early 20s. It's a very important developmental stage for a player. You know, obviously Dover hadn't featured too well in the National League when he was there, unfortunately, and he has actually really spent a lot of his time at struggling clubs, which can be very difficult for a player, you know, and sometimes, and this is what I was going to say about Welling, you know, he's really struggled because, especially in a numbers sense, because the amount of times I've watched him in clips I've watched over the past sort of 48 hours, he should be getting a good number of assists per season, but the players around him are not necessarily pulling their weight. That's not to say he's not responsible for missing his own chances, but every player is. But, you know, he should have really benefited a lot more from a better team around him, and I like to think that's what Maidstone could do for him. You know, you drop these potential players into sides who are doing a little bit better, are slightly more successful, maybe playoff contenders in a certain division like Maidstone will hopefully be for this upcoming campaign, and they can turn that promising talent into something that's consistent and regularly performing for the club. We've seen that with a lot of Maidstone signings, and again he fits that bill of these mid-20s players who are coming into the side with a point to prove. So again, that's sort of his club history. That's a little bit more about him and his prospects potentially coming into this Maidstone side, but what is it as an actual player that we may see from him contributing to the side? Well, like I say, he's very versatile, but he's a very high energy player as well. Gets around the pitch, covers quite a lot of ground. He's not afraid to get stuck into the challenge. Even when playing in a forward position, he'll high press, try and intercept the ball very high up the field, get a quick counter going, and that's the sort of thing that George Edakobi likes to do. Lead from the front foot. No team wants to just start building up from the back if they don't have to. It may be slightly more comfortable. It may give you a slight higher amount of possession during a game, which you'll have an overall more control within the fixture. But in reality, everyone wants to catch teams on the front foot, and that's the sort of thing that I believe TJ can contribute to the side. And I think we have seen a bit of a change through his career. Looking back at his time from Dover, he was a lot more of a technical player, someone who had a lot more flair about him, a lot more exuberance in his play, someone who wasn't afraid to pull some skills off in the middle of the pitch, fancy flicks, quick tricks to try and beat a player on the dribble one-to-one. But that's sort of been ironed out of him a little bit. He's become a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more regimented in his style of play, someone who has maybe found his home a little bit more in trying to have an impact on dictating a game and controlling a game, rather than trying to be that standout influence. And I think if George Edakobi and Craig Fagan can instill the confidence in him that I believe he needs, having played for clubs who've maybe not succeeded so well in the past 3 to 4 years, then I think we could see a lot of that flair come back. He is someone with that underlying trait, which I think could flourish in a side that's succeeding. And given the freedom, rather than being so restricted and regimented and, you have to stay back or you have to just quickly tick the ball over. He said in his interview with Craig Tucker in the KM this week that he believes he's someone who is a high presser, a good runner, but ticks the ball over, keeps the game running. But I think he can do more than that. I think he is someone who has that potential. It's just whether George and Craig can unlock that and really find that out for him and make him a better player than maybe he even thinks he is. So hopefully we can see a little bit more from TJ in this season for the Stones. If not, I believe he'll be a good contributor to the squad anyway, just because of his versatility to play a number of positions and the type of player he is. So for me, I think this is a pretty good signing. He's probably not coming in as a star man, but he's definitely coming in as someone who has that potential to do more. And I think that's what George Edakobi likes to do with signings. We've seen that with players like Yilla coming into the side, Tanga coming back, these sort of young developmental players, the early to mid-20s who've got a point to prove now. This is the crunch time for your career, If you want to start making big steps up the divisions, then 24, 25, 26 is where you have to start hitting the ground running. And hopefully for TJ, he's going to be able to do that this season. So if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like down below. Do subscribe to the channel as well for more content. I'm sure Maidstone will be signing plenty more players in the coming days and weeks as well. So I'll be bringing you content on all of those signings when they are announced. So thank you all so very much for joining me. Best of luck, TJ. I hope you smash it this season. And thank you all for watching. I'll catch you next time.